main agenda here today is on the Traffic Amendment Bill 2014. Some of you might have heard about it, some of you might be hearing about it for the first time or when we send out the invitation. But I think the long and short of it is that we are trying to amend our traffic bill to address certain things that have previously not been addressed. And we're going to get to the details of that, just to look at the key highlights of the bill and some of the issues that might be of interest to each of us in our respective profession. So I'm going to request that we do just a quick round of introduction.
My expectation today is to really understand in more detail about how this new legislation will help our children be safe, and particularly the impact and the linkages with cycling and walking facilities. Because as we all know, one of the key solutions to improving road safety is to have good NMT infrastructure in place.
My expectation is that at the end of it all, this bill becomes an act and supports public health in the reduction of road traffic injuries and fatalities in Kenya.
My expectation for this meeting is that we all come out with a lot more knowledge about this very important piece of legislation, the Traffic Amendment Bill. And everyone's talking about implementation, but this is not yet an act. So we still have a struggle if we like this bill. And I think it's a very important one that we make sure it's the first step is that it actually gets enacted. And so each of you who have members of parliament who will be voting, who will be, hopefully supporting this bill, we need to hear from you.
And so why this bill is important is that finally we have a law that is going to have specific interest and specific focus on issues of school-going children and the buses, and issues of speed around schools, and most importantly, the regulation of the transportation of school-going children and the speed around the school area.
Thank you, everyone, for coming today. I just want to say that besides working in urban planning, I am also a parent, and I have also been a teacher here in Kenya. And one of the saddest things I ever saw when I was a teacher was a small schoolgirl crushed on the highway in her uniform. And at that time, I was not thinking very much about urban planning. I said, that is a traffic accident. And now that I've put more thought, and I'm a mother and I have children who walk to school, take school bus, also I worry, even in New York sometimes, about my child walking. I realized that that was not a traffic accident, that in fact we failed that child, that child died out of official neglect. She died from traffic violence that we allowed to happen. Why do I say that? Because that child was only a child. She was probably 8 or 9, coming home from school, and we didn't protect her. Because when she hit a road, there was no one there, like what the Lollipop group is doing, that was mandated to help her cross when there were matatus and other vehicles on that road, trucks. There was no safe crossing. There was no law that said you have to slow down when you go near a school, with the traffic police to say, watch and say, if you do, if you're speeding, you're definitely going to get a fine. There was nothing there to protect her, and she died. And many children are dying today across the world, but here very much so because that we have failed with our official responsibilities, including not having laws like this one. You might be wondering why you see those pictures on the wall. The people in Mathare, through Reality Tested Youth Program, have been working with children there along Juja Road in particular. And what's striking is how many children have died in that neighborhood. David, I think I was told that about 10 children over maybe a period of a year have died just in this one small area along Juja Road. 10 children. And I cannot think of the pain and suffering of those families that they have lost a child. As a parent of a small child, it is devastating. What's very interesting, we asked these children to draw pictures of their neighborhood. And if you look on the walls, you'll see some of the pictures of how the children see their neighborhood. And in one of them, in many of them, you'll see a big road like what you see there. We do not see the child even understanding that there could be some place to cross that road. There's no crosswalk, speed bumps, nothing. And that is the reality of that child's neighborhood today. And I just want to end with one other small anecdote. I have talked to matatu drivers, including James, who is also a parent of small children. So children don't just take school buses, they also take matatus. And one of my colleagues said that he has a matatu driver friend who actually learned on school buses how to drive. If you can imagine that these children are subjected to drivers who do not know how to drive because there's no regulation. And the whole issue also of children who don't have school buses, they are poor children in slums, and they take matatus. How are they treated? How do they navigate the matatu system? That's another whole question, and James has given us some very interesting insights, and I hope he'll speak up today about that as well. So I want to say that this bill is really way overdue, and so important to now getting rid of that official neglect, the failure to protect our children.
We want to ensure that when children are going to school, will be in a safer environment, all the way to school and back home in the evening. And of course, some of the things which are going to be done will, if this bill is going to be implemented, is going to be enacted, are some things which may require some modifications of the environment around school. Here we are talking about all those things about speed calming measures, road bumps, paths for children as they go to school, zebra crossing, among others, foot bridges and the rest. So NTSA will undertake to ensure that some of these things will be implemented, and we are going to discuss with our sister authorities in the Ministry of Transport and Infrastructure, and who are dealing with Highway Authority.
The purpose of the bill is to ensure safety of children on the roads, especially around schools. So what the bill does seeks to do is to reduce to deal with one aspect that internationally has been recognized as one of the drivers of road crashes, and that is speed. If you live in this country, you will notice that the vehicles that are used to transport school-going children is actually their matatus, or the vehicles that are on their way towards them being written off, and which really tells us a lot about how we deal with our children. If the matatu is doing very well, it will ply the highest route, maybe Nairobi, Eldoret route. Then as its value goes down, it does the urban routes. Then as it goes down, it does the urban routes, which are seen to be less valuable gist. And then on its way to the deathbed, it's actually used to transport children, which really tells us how we test our society by looking at how it treats the most vulnerable in our midst, who are our children. So internationally recognized that speed limit around where children are should not be more than 30 kilometers. So 30 kilometers is the recommendation. And this is for nursery school, primary schools, and secondary schools, and sections which are used by children to access learning institutions.
There's this, there's this culture in this country that we are all rebellious to the rule of law. And for some reason, we're told to wear seat belts. You can't, you don't wear, and it's your safety. Even me sometimes I don't wear it. Why can't we have all our school buses in one color? Every school bus, one color, it's bright, a color that can be seen from a kilometer away. So even if somebody's drunk, you'll see that color and say, well, although I'm drunk, I'm going to be careful because there are children in this bus. So we become a nation of laws. So we see that the yellow bus. Why would a country like America do that? Because they realize the power is in color, and that when you drive, you understand the bus in front of me, the bus behind me has got children, and as a driver, you also have children. So, what I'm thinking is, this bill will not have much resistance in Parliament. Maybe a few of my colleagues have told me about the speed limit, which we'll discuss, and I want your support on that one.
I want now to open the floor for your intervention, for your comments, for your questions for any of the speakers.
Mheshimiwa, I would expect you to introduce a clause where you ban travel for school children at night, because I didn't see that one in your bill. Secondly, I would like you to recommend also that apart from someone talking about curriculum for school, these schools for training drivers and so on being improved.
I've been working in I've heard some people talk about being in the low-income area or the less privileged, like in areas like Kibera and Magare and so forth. And we've had this issue of children being transported as young as even less 5 years going to the preschools and ECD centers with motorbikes. And when you look at the number of children being varied by that one motorbike, there are like 4 or 5 kids behind one gentleman. So that's to me, I tend to look at it like it's a very risk and a very critical part of it. It's also a means of transport. And another point as far as the motorbikes are concerned too, is in real sense, I don't really understand the traffic rules for the motorbikes, because sometimes you find that the vehicles are supposed to move and the motorbikes are also crossing the road. Pedestrians are also crossing and the motorbikes are still crossing. So where do the motorbikes really stand? What is their traffic light says green? When does it say red? Because anytime it's red, they're still crossing. Anytime it's green, they're still crossing. And some of them have kids behind them.
On the issue of Professor talked about that there's need to consider a ban of night travel for children, I think that is something which is in the offing, and with discussions with the ministry concerned with education, then that should be addressed, and we are working quite closely with Ministry of Education on issues with transport policy and our guidelines, which subsequently will be dispersed to the school heads and school management boards all across the country. Then, of course, you talked about road safety from the beginning for all school-going children. I think that is already in the curriculum. The thing we are trying to do currently in NTSA is to ensure that we mainstream, we have road safety in all sectors. We always say that there's need to have road safety in all sectors of the economy or otherwise of the society. Talk of course, currently it is, we need to have it in education. We need to, of course, it's in health. We need to have it, of course, in transport. We need to have it in name it, in whatever you do. In whatever you do, road safety has become part and parcel of your life.
My small experience in the past has been fighting corruption, worked on for an anti-corruption organization. And the problem in this country about corruption is it's a values issue. So it's a software issue. And we all know very well that murder is bad, okay? Actually, for the believers of the great book, they say murder, the Ten Commandments says do not murder. But even though we know it's a bad thing, we had to go ahead and codify it in our penal code that and legislate against murder. The message I'm trying to say is that when we look at the broader principles of law formulation, one of the objectives is to provide for penalties and sanctions. I would leave the space of enforcement of methods. Which do we go first by mass media campaign followed by, because if tomorrow morning if we really wanted this country to deal with corruption, all you need to do is 5 prominent prosecutions successfully done, visibly in the glare of the media, people taken to committee, and I can tell you for sure, it will send a powerful message.
The issue of corruption. Somebody told me Kenyans love money very much. That you can go to a bank to withdraw money, say 100,000. And then the teller counts the money. You take it, you also count. And then you put it in your jacket. You go home. You go to your house. This is a Tanzanian person who told me. You go to your house, you lock the door, all locks. You see if there's anybody under the bed. But you still count the money like this inside. You don't even take them out to count. You still count like this. 2, 3, 4. That's how much you love money. But anyway, I think the bottom line, I think it's been a lot of issues have been addressed. It's just now that we have to be active, proactive on this one. I think at the end of the day, most things will the buck stops with the director. And as soon as this bill is passed, I'd like for them to be proactive and we move on quickly.
Ladies and gentlemen, I think we've had a fruitful morning. So as a way forward, we all have a role to play when it comes to road safety. I think as a parent, before you put your kid in that old matatu, you must be able to ask yourself if you are doing any good to your child, or you are just, maybe you are driving a child to early grave. Before you point a finger to the government or to NTSA, you must also ask yourself what is it that you can be able to do as a parent to make sure that your children are safe. And we all have a role to play in one way or the other. So as a way forward, and as you heard, is that we still have an opportunity as stakeholders to give an input to this traffic amendment bill. And we welcome your views as Kara. You can be able to get back home, have a look at the bill, which we shared on email. And if you have views that you think can go towards improving that particular bill, please share them with us. So having said that, ladies and gentlemen, just to invite you for a cup of tea that we have behind us, and request you to continue with this discussion. Please share with us your views. You can send an email to info@kara.or.ke if you have any information that you want to share with us, or you can give us a call. I'm sure most of you have our contacts. I can give my cards after this. But let's keep talking, let's keep having the discussion, and let's keep playing our role as stakeholders of this country and as people who have the interests of this country at heart.